7 when Star Wars came out, so Lucas makes Star Wars, which basically is, I can imagine when, you know, like a religious zealot finds God, you know, they kind of sit there and they go, you know, whatever religion, then they go, I see it, I get it, I'm enlightened, that's it, I want to go that way. And they have it right. That was correct, and this is not, this station wagon with my parents, this is not correct. And I had all those kind of really, that rush, I can remember it exactly.
Steven Spielberg, I think, is the easiest answer to that one. He made Jaws and Raiders and E.T. when I was 7 to 12 years old, and those movies had a big effect on me, and I wanted to do that for a living and wanted to have that feeling happen again and again. You know, if you keep banging your head against something like I was, you go, hey, I'm not listening properly. I'm thinking too much, I'm trying to do something, I'm trying to force my way in. I need to go over this way and start thinking more, listening to myself more, and then the right answers come.
Visionary, hack, fraud, these are all terms that a lot of people describe our director that we're talking about tonight. So welcome back to Director's Cut. I'm your host, John, and with me today, my co-host, as always, Mr. Jason Alt.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Hey, man. So yeah, we are talking about Mr. M. Night Shyamalan. I thought we did a polarizing director last week in Terrence Malick. How would you describe, in one word, Jason, M. Night Shyamalan?
Enigmatic.
Oh, all right. This is such an enigmatic director. I don't know why that was so hard to say. That Jason and I couldn't do it alone, so we invited our pals from Bad Movie Night, returning to the channel, and one of them returning to Director's Cut, not since the Kevin Smith episode, but Ian and Chris. Thank you guys for joining us.
It's actually, I go by C. Day Rupert now. Thank you.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Yeah. Hi, Ian.
Yo, how's it going, man?
Oh, I
His name
refuse
is
to address
Night
it now.
Shyamalan. C. Day Rupert.
Oh, got it. See, this is why Jason's on the show, to get these high level jokes that just on me.
Big words are hard for you. I understand.
I mean, I did have to look up enigmatic when you were saying it because I had no idea what that means.
Nice.
Does it make you feel better?
Yeah.
Not knowing what enigmatic means, that's kind of funny.
All right.
It's a mystery. What does it mean?
So we have more special guests. Let's go around the table. Chris, are you drinking anything tonight?
Oh yeah, a little H2OO.
Oh,
You're drinking hydrogen peroxide?
Is that what hydrogen peroxide is? H2OO.
H2O2. I have a degree in chemistry, then I'm clearly...
You drink enough of it, you get a taste for it.
Yeah.
Sure. It's just like hard liquor.
I'm bleaching my tongue. Leave me alone.
Ian, you got a special guest tonight?
Yeah, I'm in honor of visiting with you in the Pacific Northwest. I've got an Oregon beer. I've got Deschutes Obsidian Stout.
Nice. That's a good one, man. It's good to see Deschutes making its way out in the Midwest.
I have a Deschutes bottle opener. Does that count?
Ooh.
Wait, hold on. Hold on.
Midwest.
Not only do you not know what the word enigmatic means, you think Pennsylvania's in the Midwest?
Chris didn't know what enigmatic was. I couldn't say it.
Pennsylvania wishes that we're in the... Yeah, John can't pronounce it.
Yeah.
He knows what it means.
We're not even out in like Pittsburgh near Ohio. Like we are straight like in the Philadelphia suburbs.
What suburb?
Cradle of American civilization.
Like I literally just left cleaning the doctor's office, which is on the same street as that the high school in the Visit. Like it's literally right there. I drive by.
Yeah, man. Every single M. Night Shyamalan movie is set in Philadelphia. You would think you would not call it the Midwest.
Well, not After Earth.
Yeah, that's set in Will Smith's basement.
But he was born and raised in Philadelphia.
Oh! Got there.
Well, near Philadelphia. Near Philadelphia.
Jason, who's your special guest tonight? What's your special guest tonight? What are you drinking tonight? Jason.
I'm drinking a bourbon barrel-aged Dragon's Milk from Holland, Michigan, and it is 11%, and that's probably all I'll need. Probably just the one.
Those are so goddamn good. I don't remember how I got that in Vegas, but I did, and that's like church.
Regular
man.
Dragon's Milk or the bourbon barrel? Because the
bourbon barrel, yeah,
milk will put you on your ass.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
I am drinking. I try to get the most Shyamalan-y looking beer, so I got the Mountain Daisy. This is from Fremont. I've drank a lot of Fremont on this show before. The Down and Dirty It's called, I don't know why, 7%er. Another IPA, single IPA, which is kind of disappointing, but it is fresh. It's their springtime release from Fremont, and I've never had anything bad from Fremont. So
Shyamalan movies are kind of the IPA of movies.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, everybody really liked him in like the early 2000s, and then they're like, oh, okay. That's kind of one note. I get it.
Yeah. So, Lastrovia, gentlemen.
Prost.
Sluncha.
Stuff.
Water.
Third of a sex.
God, that's good. Even they managed to do a boring ass single IPA brilliantly. So, all right. So M. Night Shyamalan, the man is he's directed all the films that people really liked at first, and then people really hated. And is he back? I don't know. He's about to release a brand new film. The magnum opus to his trilogy, the ending to his trilogy. So if you don't know what M. Night Shyamalan has directed, don't worry. That's why we're here. I'm gonna set the stage for you all. So here we go. Though he would make his presence known in the Hollywood scene in a big way, enigmatic director M. Night Shyamalan began his film directing career with a sweet semi-autobiographical film about an Americanized teenager returning to India to go to school called Praying with Anger. While Praying with Anger didn't quite fit with what came to be known as Shyamalan's signature style, his next effort, a wacky Rosie O'Donnell vehicle about a boy who learns to cope with his grandfather's passing with the help of a sports-obsessed nun, is a much departure from typical Shyamalan fare as you can get. Like Praying, M. Night penned and directed the film himself, and while it barely made half its budget back, it did somehow grant him the gravitas to demand an estimated $40 million to create his breakout film. 1999's career-defining The Sixth Sense, overnight Shyamalan established himself as a hot property, and 2000's smash hit Unbreakable is as good as a 1-2 punch as we've seen from the director on this show. Flush with success and adulation, studios were only too happy to give him a bigger budget for 2002's Signs, which divided critics and audiences, but was a cash cow, printing money and helping establish Rory Culkin as a Hollywood contender. The cracks were beginning to show, in 2004's The Village was technically good as an offering after The Sixth Sense, but audiences were beginning to get wise to his signature twist at the end of the film, and critics began to cool a bit on their erstwhile darling. The twist became so predictable that he altogether abandoned the concept for 2006's Lady in the Water, which was a dreamlike and pensive film that felt perhaps more at home in the oeuvre of Guillermo del Toro, but nonetheless featured a very strong performance from Paul Giamatti and Bryce Dallas Howard, who reunited with Shyamalan after her success in The Village. I'm Ron Burgundy. If Lady in the Water divided critics, you're an asshole, Jason. 2008's The Happening helped them find consensus. Shyamalan seemed to have lost his touch for making good films, although he could still make double or triple his budget back, although this was helped by the budgets beginning to contract. A failed attempt to adapt popular children's television show Avatar in 2010's The Last Airbender cemented Shyamalan as the butt of Hollywood's jokes. Though the film didn't lose money, it angered fans of anime and cinema alike, and Shyamalan swept the 31st Razzie Awards for the worst film of the year. Undeterred by such a colossal failure, M. Night Shyamalan did what he had to do to remain directing films, and in 2013, that meant directing and co-adapting Will Smith's love letter to L. Ron Hubbard's Dianetics into a film called After Earth. After Earth barely made back half its budget in the USA, but overseas it fared better. Attempting to reboot his career by getting back to his roots, he penned and directed a screenplay he called Sundowning, but which was released with a far more Shyamalanian title, The Visit, a title as enigmatic as the taut, claustrophobic film itself. Far exceeding its modest budget of $5 million, The Visit was a commercial success, and critics gave him high marks, the likes of which he hadn't seen since The Village. 2016 split post-credit scene revealing the return of Unbreakable's David Dunn character, with none other than Bruce Willis reprising the role he would again reprise in this year's upcoming sequel, Glass. Will Glass continue Shyamalan's modest hot streak and return him to the post-Unbreakable glory days? Or are his best days behind him? Only time will tell, but if Split's critical and financial success are a prologue, we haven't seen the last of M. Night Shyamalan, and he still has a few more stories to tell. So, what?
So you're Ron Burgundy, huh? What a twist.
All right, folks, that covers it. This has been a great episode of Director's Cut. It's been nice to be here.
I made him say enigmatic 3 times. He said it correctly once.
If this was an Xbox 360 game, you got like 4 achievements on that. So good job. Oh man! All right. So thinking
Did you
about
specifically ask for that word so you could plug that in like a Mad Lib?
I
was
sure
that planned, or was that
That wasn't
was
even
that totally off the cuff?
I didn't realize I'd written enigmatic in there twice, and then I didn't realize that.
Oh, you wrote it?
Describe him that way. Yeah. Oh, I wrote that copy for him, and I definitely slipped in that Ron Burgundy thing because I figured he would be humming pretty fast by the time we get to the middle.
Did you slip that in like in real time? Like,
No, I wrote that like as we started the episode.
Nice. Yeah, great.
Slip that in like I'm going to be sliding into your DMs later, John.
Ooh, don't tease me.
As far as I know, what you're doing right now is enigmatic.
Chris, can we confirm that is used correctly?
The definition is difficult to interpret or understand, mysterious.
Perfect. Yes. So yeah, that's M. Night, right? So Chris and Ian, we've been talking about doing an M. Night Shyamalan. Well, no, we've been talking. We just want to do a thing about The Happening, right? And
You pulled a
No.
M. Night Shyamalan. You pulled a Shyamalan twist on us.
Yeah.
And tried to trick us into a Happening episode that you then later turned into a director's cut where we had to watch way too many goddamn movies.
You know what was Shyamalanian? I expected to offend him, and I was like, in doing the research, I began to hate him. Because I was like, man, everyone thinks he sucks, thinks he's a hack. He's actually a good director. He's a shit writer, but he's a good director, man. And then I started really digging down. I'm like, oh no, he sucks.
Well,
I'll defend the hometown boy.
I think I'm more the opposite.
wow. So
I
Jason's
didn't
the only
watch
heel.
all of his movies, so
No, nor should you. It's
You
weird.
mean you
because-
didn't watch Praying with Anger?
I did not watch Praying with Anger. I did not watch the Rosie O'Donnell one, and I did not watch After Earth.
I know Ian watched Rosie O'Donnell one.
Gosh, sure did.
Who did
So
watch
before
Praying
we-
with Anger?
Is there Koosh Balls
I did.
in that one?
Who,
I did.
Oh,
Is
you
that-
did?
So that's a short?
No,
I think it's like
feature.
90
That's
minutes.
fair.
Before we even get into specific movies, I'm curious to know, what do you guys think of as like the signature thing that defines Shyamalan? Because I have a different take on this than I think the average person would.
I think he thinks he's Hitchcock, and I think he thinks
Or
he's
he's actually a little bit Spielbergian too.
sure, yeah.
Before I got into it
I'd
more.
agree with that.
That's what everybody was saying when Sixth Sense came out.
Like,
But
I
it's-
think
I think just the twist. Like that's what he's commonly known for, right?
it's
But
what
like
most
he's
people
like
think
sort of
when they
abandoned that lately.
Yeah.
I think that's what people think of when they think of Shyamalan, but really what I think is his greatest strength is he's really good at creating really effective moments that do more than just tell you what the scene needs to. He captures so much about a character that you can't do with a line sometimes. I think like the best example of it, Unbreakable, towards the end, when he pushes the newspaper across to his son across the breakfast table to show him that, hey man, I figured it out, I'm doing it. But then also trying to keep it quiet from the mom. Like that speaks
visual
so
story
much
down
about
there.
the family dynamic, about the dynamic between the father and son, between what's going on. Like that is such a great moment. And there's so many of those in his movies, especially the ones people really like. And I think that translates well to the endings as well. He makes great moments out of his endings, which are very
he does
memorable.
tension really well. He builds tension and he
Yeah.
relieves tension. And that's I think why people call him Hitchcockian, and I think that's absolutely a compliment. I think he's I think he's a real student of a lot of stuff, German expressionism and Hitchcock, Spielberg. Loves Dutch angles, loves them.
Yeah. I think like a lot of his movies, they're mostly except for The Happening are PG-13, and he can convey like some really like dark, disturbing stuff without being explicit about it. Way better than movies that are explicit about it, I think.
He earns his jump scares too. I think even in a movie that I didn't care for so much, like Signs, he has some really effective jump scares.
What?
I mean, where the whole entire, I mean, we all remember being like, 15 or 16 years old watching Signs in the theater, and the hand happens and you're just like, oh shit. And then like in The Visit, like that, it had, okay, so I watched The Visit while I was like on my lunch break at work. And did everyone watch The Visit here? I don't want to really spoil it.
Yeah, The Visit was delightful.
There was the time, or the moment where I forget her name, but the grandma will say, does the whole the scene almost like in a Paranormal Activity where she kind of jumps in the camera and essentially says boo, but it's set up so well. I literally yelped with my headphones on in the little food court area and just started laughing so hard I was crying because of how he got me with that. It was so damn effective, and it was very earned. So I do appreciate he does, like Jason said, tension building. He nails, and he does so well.
This is why I expected to defend him, because like when people started to like kind of poop on Shyamalan, I was like, no, man, he does the Hitchcockian jump scare where the way he sets up the shot. Let's say, for example, Signs, swing set, that scene, when Gibson's looking out the window and you see like, and then suddenly the thing's on top of the shed or whatever. The way Hitchcock would show somebody would do a jump scare, there's a crescendo of the music, but the first thing he shows is the person's face reacting. So you see a terrified expression on Gibson's face for like a fraction of a second, and then you cut to the thing he's looking at. And that was a technique that Hitchcock employed. A lot of his jump scares, you show the scared person just real briefly, a couple of frames, and then you see what they're looking at. So like you take your cue from them, it's like, oh shit, you're going to be scared, plus the musical cue, plus like a weird askew angle showing the thing, and just all that is unsettling. It all happens within 1 or 2 seconds before you know how to react. That's why he does jump scare so well, because he studied the anatomy of a jump scare, and they're not gratuitous. He does maybe 1 or 2 a movie, But with Signs, two felt like a lot in Signs, but I thought it was perfect.
Would those kind of scares work for you if you weren't like emotionally invested in the characters at all? Like if you didn't care about these characters and seeing their reaction to something, would it still have the same effect?
No, I think
absolutely not.
You're not rooting for them to get killed. Like it's not like a horror, like a slasher movie where it's just like 11 big-titted co-eds and you're waiting for them all to get cut up.
Right.
You actually want the people not to die.
The plot of his latest movie, but yeah,
perfect. That's why it's called Glass.
I think it definitely speaks to the fact that I think of him as much more of a dramatic director than as a horror director.
Yeah.
Well, he's a thriller director.
It's terror, right? Terror, not horror.
A lot of gore.
Yeah.
But
definitely
brings a very strong dramatic sense to all of the movies.
Because he's not a very visually stunning, he's great at shot composition, like setting up scenes. But he's not where he could do claustrophobic or he could do kind of landscape very well. Everything looks very cold. Everything's very naturally lit. But it's not like when he does the gore or when he shows the monster, like the Alien and Monsters looks terrible. Or the Alien and Monsters. Strike that Dorset. Yeah. The Alien and Signs, I thought maybe for the time is okay, but now looking back on it now, it doesn't really hold up. I
wish they hadn't showed it. Like when they showed it like freeze framed. When you saw it walk by in that video and everyone like jumped, that was cool. But then when they showed it, it was like, oh, so it's a rubber shark suit. That sucks.
Yeah.
Like you don't want Bruce the animatronic shark to work, otherwise Jaws sucks. So why do you as the director pause it on the Alien?
So as far as his kind of crescendo goes of directing great film, then completely plummeted it off, and then now conversely it looks like he's back on the rise. It is very reminiscent of someone like a John Carpenter, where you start out really strong, you're an unknown, you prove yourself, and then people throw money at you, and then you kind of, I guess I use this term a lot, but smell your own farts a lot, and then you kind of get in your own head, and that kind of happens when you're like him, and he takes on so much. He's the writer, he's the director, he's often the actor, to the point where I think he had to kind of screw up and stumble with something like I mean, we all figured out that he screwed up and stumbled a lot faster than he figured it out on his own. I think it took the last Airbender.
Do you think he thinks he's a genius?
Well, no, when he got to the last Airbender, even he said in interviews, this scope of a production got away from me. And sometimes I'd walk on the set and go, I don't know what to do now.
The problem with Last Airbender, though.
What was the problem with Last Airbender?
Did you watch it?
So this is the thing. I hold no affection to anime. I don't care. I don't like anime. I love cartoon. I love animation. I just, for some reason, anime is not in.
I was like, don't you do a cartoon show?
Yeah. I just don't like anime. I mean, I like
Screw Akira. I want to watch Scooby-Doo. That's weird, man.
No, I like Disney and stop motion and stuff like that, but I just don't. Don Bluth is great. I don't like anime. It just doesn't do it for me. Unless you're doing like Spirited Away or something like that. But so I didn't care about it being faithful to the source material. Also, watching it so many years later, it just in prep for the show, because I'm like, back in the day, I'm like, oh, everyone says it sucks, probably sucks. Now I do this kind of show, so I'm like, yeah, I had to watch it. The whitewashing thing, that's all over and done. All the noise, the peripheral was so loud that's what I think influenced a lot of people. I was watching it and I was waiting for it to suck. I'm like, okay, I'm about to watch the worst movie in history, according to a lot of people and according to a lot of smart people. When is it going to suck? It's fine. It's not great. It's stupid. It's good in the way Venom was good, where it's just kind of big and dumb and it's for kids. But I thought it was fine. Martial arts sequences were great. Visually, it was okay. The acting was just abysmal, but it's for kids. It's like a Twilight for boys, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
So that's actually the only of his movies that I haven't seen, and I chose to see some other ones that I haven't seen of his in preparation for this, and didn't have time for all of them. That was when I decided to skip, because I'm also not very fond of anime in particular. But actually, I know a lot of people didn't like it. I saw that Ghost in the Shell movie. I thought that was a good movie. I liked it. I don't know. I never saw the source material.
Controversy hurt that movie.
It's strange because on two counts, like, I didn't even hear about that till after I'd seen the movie. But on the one hand, she's a robot. She can look any goddamn way you want. And two, like, they kind of posited a world in the future where kind of races had all come together and intermingled a little bit more. It's a little bit more of like a pan-global kind of a thing that was a little bit more bits of everything, which, you feel however you want to feel about that. I think it was intended to be a hopeful future in that specific way, at least. So I don't really see a problem with that in that movie. I'm open to the argument that there's too much whitewashing in Hollywood. I didn't think that was the best example of that, though.
You don't need Keanu Reeves as a samurai.
Or Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise wasn't a samurai. Tom Cruise was the white guy narrator walking you through. He needed to be a white, but
I guess I don't understand.
Like, whitewashing is like, it's a real problem, but like Scarlett Johansson looks a lot like Major, so like I was sort of like, I don't know, she looks like her. That's the way they drew her.
But would you say that in The Last Airbender that it didn't capture the look of the anime? Because I thought, I mean, I'm not a fan of the anime, but just comparing pictures and stuff, it visually does look very similar to me. But I don't know if it captures that tone or feeling that the show has. And maybe that's what it is.
I thought Noah was a dead ringer. No, Noah Ringer. I appreciate what Shyamalan said, because that was brought up a lot during that time when it came out, and he was in interviews and why the whitewashing, all this, and he just said, listen, Noah Ringer was this character of Ong or Aang, or that's another conversation to pronounce that kid's name right. But he said this guy is this little boy is staff trained. He was just the one that nailed the role. And with all the shitty acting in that film, I thought he was probably the best part of it. I'm glad that he chose the best person for the job. Yes, he looked
like Aang, and on the show, Aang is a little bit lighter skinned.
Sure.
Then they have darker skinned characters, and they were cast well, I thought.
Yeah, I'm certainly no expert on anime, but isn't it reasonably common in that style for even Japanese characters to be a little bit westernized in terms of the eyes and the skin tone?
That's the animation style. And it's weird because they do that mostly, but then they will have some really Japanese looking characters. And I thought they did a good job with casting those. I mean, we're talking about Ghost in the Shell a lot, but I thought the casting for that movie was good. I know Asian people are like, can we just get some goddamn Asian people in a movie?
Which I understand.
That's valid.
Yeah.
I'm sympathetic to that.
Yeah. But like, man, Scarlett Johansson looked a lot, and they got a dude from South Africa to play a character who looks exactly like the guy in the anime. But then they had some characters that are drawn more Japanese looking, and they cast them with Japanese actors. I get it. But I don't know. I don't think that's why you necessarily condemn a movie when there's other flaws with it. But just put some goddamn Asian people in some movies. Make more crazy rich Asians and make more. They're doing a live action Mulan that'll be out soon. That is an all Asian cast, stuff like that. Just keep doing that because people don't give a shit if it's all Asian people. They'll go see it if it's a good story. So I think the Hollywood thinks, oh, we can't do this, but you absolutely can. Just make the movies. People will see them.
But regardless of whitewashing and all that kind of stuff, the translation from a cartoon or anime to real life, for instance, that Beauty and the Beast movie, was that well received? Is that as classic? Is that as loved as the cartoon? Like, I'm not quite sure I understand the mentality of somebody who's so in love with, say, The Last Airbender, Avatar show. What are they really expecting in the movie? Is it they want it to be exactly the same? Because I don't think, one, that's really possible. So it's just you're kind of setting yourself up for disappointment, I think.
Like, here's the thing. It was the same thing that happened for me with Dark Tower. I've been reading Stephen King since I was alive. It's just like
we don't have enough time to get into the Dark Tower right now.
Well, just real quick.
But it was a botch,
I have
right?
lots of thoughts about the Dark Tower.
Yeah, it's just like the no matter what the movie turned out to be, the fact that it was just one movie, all these things, like Ian said, this is not about this because we can make a thing about this. But no matter what they put on screen, I would have been disappointed because the Dark Tower was a part of my life for so long, and I had an idea in my head of what people sounded like, looked like, smelled like, taste like, all that stuff. I had the sensory expectations ready. And instead I got right as Randall Flagg, and I lost my shit. I lost
but see, even as like somebody, I have read most of the Dark Tower, but I didn't remember it when I went and saw the movie. But not even remembering anything, coming into it with like fresh eyes for the story, it was still a really bad, disappointing movie.
Absolutely.
So, and it's not that you had too lofty of expectations, is that they completely punted.
Exactly.
Like, you look at something that's well adapted. Like, I saw the first episode of The Walking Dead, which was the only good episode that first season. And I was like, oh shit, this is a lot like the comic book. This is really good. So when it's good, you're like, oh shit, they did such a good job. I got goosebumps. So like, it's not that like, my expectations were too high. They botched it. And with The Last Airbender, it didn't feel to me like a Shyamalan movie. It just felt like a joyless, like hashing out of one of these decently budgeted movies where it feels corporate and manufactured and just getting all the points that are in that cartoon as long as the kids are happy. But it didn't feel like there was any love or anything brought into it. I would have preferred a Shyamalan version of The Last Airbender. Sure, that extreme minority of rabid fans would have been upset that it doesn't match their cartoon 1-to-1, but at least it would have maybe been a better movie that everybody could in some way enjoyed. I don't know. Yeah, it was like they brought in Shyamalan to like finish a movie because someone got fired for a tweet.
I think he wanted to because he knew it had a big fan base, and he was just trying to win favor over after a few recent flops. After Lady in the Water, and not that like The Village was a flop, but it started to tarnish his, how people viewed his movies and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I think when people walked out of The Village, they're just like, "Oh, that was great," but was it? Like in the car ride home, they're like, "No, that movie sucked, right? Okay, it was a Shyamalan movie, but it sucked. It's okay to say that." And that was the first time that happened.
Yeah, but the Village, you walked out of that, you're like, I didn't like it. Was that my fault? Like, you didn't know yet. You didn't have enough data points. But when you saw Lady in the Water, you're like, okay, that's 2 data points. We definitely can draw a trend line.
But at least Lady in the Water is something unique.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You might not like it and think some people might really like it. So at least it's kind of divisive in that way. It's just not like, I wouldn't say it's a really bad movie. It just might not be something you enjoy because of certain aspects.
It's definitely interesting.
So he made a children's book, Lady in the Water. with really good illustrations, and it's like a real boiled down version of the story. And my daughter loves it. It's great. It's like a Chris Van Allsburg book.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah,
So it's not a bad story. It's just for whatever reason it didn't work.
translate.
Yeah, it just didn't work in that medium.
It
So they got
completely
something
worked
good
for
out of
me.
it.
It completely worked for me. I think Lady of the Water is one of his best
So-
things. Yeah, I love it.
And
Yeah,
the
I-
twist was there was no twist, and you were waiting for it.
Yeah, kind of.
So
yeah, go ahead.
that's an interesting question. Does the twist, is that a strong point for him, or is that overall like damage his filmography? Like,
It's a gimmick you can't use too many times.
yeah,
Because when people are expecting it, then it loses. Because I spent,
You're waiting for the twist. You're not
Yeah,
waiting for it to have a good movie experience.
or you try to figure out the twist. I spent the whole
Yeah,
time in
yeah.
Split trying to figure out the twist, and when what I figured out and thought I was a genius wasn't it. It pissed me off.
yeah. If the whole movie
Yeah.
hinges on that twist working, then it's probably not very good, right? Like if the
I also
rest
think
Yeah.
most of the
Then you're an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? You're not in a movie.
episode of Lost.
Mm.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, it's funny because Are You Afraid of the Dark? There was an episode where like a guy died and he went to work at the bowling alley where he worked, and his sister was the only one who could see him. Everybody
That
else
was a great
couldn't see him.
episode. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great episode, but it was also Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
And so he was cranking these out. He made Sixth Sense. That's when he was just like on cloud nine. Came back with Unbreakable, which I don't think critically was as beloved as Sixth Sense. I don't think anything, to be fair, is going to be as critically loved as Sixth Sense. But the two solid outings, and then Signs, and then The Village, and then basically, I'm trying to fast forward to people got pissed off when he made Lady of the Water in The Village, and then The Happening happened, and
Everybody fucking rejoiced at how awesome the movie is.
What? No.
What? No.
Are you looking at my lemon drink? I love this movie.
this movie was his middle finger to Hollywood, and I just love it. It's just
They gave him $48 million to make this movie.
Oh my god! That part where Zoe Deschanel looks at Marky Mark and goes, "I got a secret to tell you," and he goes, "What is it?" And she goes, "I see bad actors." I fucking loved it. Marky Mark single-handedly ruins and makes this movie.
He's so bad in everything.
So bad.
He's so bad.
My favorite part is the behind the scenes where they show Shyamalan sitting in the director's chair. Mark Wahlberg walks up to the house where the kids get blown away, and then he's about to say his line, and then he comes back to Shyamalan and goes, "Are you serious? Do I have to say it like this?" And Shyamalan is beside himself. He's laughing so hard he's crying. He said, "Yeah, fuck it, just go, just do it." Just
Not that much emotion, Robert.
Why would we be asking for food if the place is boarded up and nobody's lived here for a long time? What makes you think there's fresh groceries?
Two words. Canned goods. Cut. Cut. For God's sakes, cut.
So he knew what he was making.
He knew. He absolutely knew. This
Feels
was a
that
joke,
way, right? Because
Yeah.
it feels
I
so
would say-
consistent, and it's
Throughout his career, one thing you can't say about Shyamalan is that he's not self-aware. He knows exactly what he's doing most of the time, even if
But,
he's
like-
not knowing that it's going to be successful or not.
The Happening seemed like it was made for MTV, though, doesn't it?
A little bit. Yeah. It was
Like
just,
it was like a Final Destination sequel.
but it was so bad in a self-aware way. Like there's one scene where where the framing's so bad, like when they're standing there at the end, with the wind's kind of building, and they're just kind of accepting their fates. The framing is off. They're not even in the middle of the shot, and it's for no reason at all.
No, it's deliberate to give you a sense of unease.
It's deliberate because he's laughing at us because he was pissed off that you didn't like his Lady in the Water in the Village, and I loved it. I loved that he got away with it.
People liked The Village.
I think people like The Village too.
It's not a badly
My
made
wife-
film.
My wife loves The Village. It's her favorite Shyamalan movie. I think she's wrong, but
I kind of really dug the twist, actually.
Well, one other thing about The Happening.
it's actually my least favorite part about it.
Did you guys? I watched The Happening today,
Nice.
and
What?
the very end scene when they were like in France or whatever,
Mhm.
the guy turns around and everybody freezes, and there's a dude riding a bike, and he's just frozen.
Yeah.
And he's like, all his legs are up and everything because it's
Yeah.
clearly like an image. It was the icing on the cake for this movie.
You guys like hot dogs? They're in good shape. They're cylinder. Yeah,
it's so fun. Like I haven't watched Sign or The Sixth Sense since it probably came out, so I rewatched it for this. But I had watched The Happening a few times since then.
Any movie where John Leguizamo is not the worst part of the movie.
Whoa! I was going to say
you're in bad shape.
Any movie where you make John Leguizamo look bad, you're in bad. Dude, John Leguizamo's a fantastic actor.
I think that's Chris putting in his bid to be on the Actors Reel episode on John Leguizamo.
I love John Leguizamo.
Yeah, he is watching.
To answer your original question, yes, I did see Praying with Anger, and it's an interesting movie.
Yeah, it was a pretty average movie. It was. Yeah. Some people do a really good first movie. Some people do a really god-awful first movie. This was pretty average. It was better than Wide Awake.
Yeah. But it was interesting. It was a great first attempt at a movie. You can kind of see the elements that create the Shyamalan style kind of starting to form. So it was interesting to me because you look at IMDb, it listed as a comedy first and a drama second. And that blew me away because I saw that after I'd seen the movie. The humor in that movie mostly doesn't land for me, but it is a really interesting, dramatic movie.
Maybe there was stuff in there that like only Americanized Indian people would get, or like Indian people. Maybe there's some stuff in there that like you just like culturally didn't land.
I think if you can relate to a fish out of water story, I think there's some relatable things in there. I mean, it's not super relatable for me, as even though I grew up in relatively the same area as Shyamalan, but it's also a coming of age story, which is pretty classic.
Well, I don't think you need to identify with his experience to find it compelling, but like maybe some of the humor was a little subtle for Westerners.
I think it's funny that every time somebody met him and found out he was American, they asked, "Oh, do you know Michael Jackson?"
It's random. I think his humor
happened like 4 times.
His humor works better when he's not making jokes, but he's just casting ironically, like he's casting John Leguizamo and Zooey Deschanel and Marky Mark in one film in a thriller, where it's just like, and he's just like, yeah, just chew up the scene. It's like, oh, Marky Mark's like, oh no, when the gunshot goes off by not Adam Sandler, and she just looks at the camera. Oh, what? Oh no,
Zooey Deschanel seemed like she was like on heavy opiates or something. She's like doesn't feel anything.
It's just a perfect parody film, and I'm so happy it exists, and I'm so happy that it happened.
I wish I'd had a chance to rewatch this one before we did this, because I didn't get any of that. It's been many years since I've seen it too, so.
You took it seriously?
I don't know, man. I haven't seen that since it came out.
It's listed in IMDb as a comedy, I believe. I might be wrong.
Okay. Let me verify that. Yeah, no, it's not. It's listed as mystery sci-fi thriller.
Wow. Okay. I thought I saw comedy somewhere.
No, man. He was trying to make a thriller, and you know it.
No.
He just watched it.
Well, you give so much weird comedy in it.
Giving him so much latitude. He made a shitty movie. Like. He's done it before. He'll do it again. Like, why are you so desperate to be like, no, man, he was laughing at us. No, we're laughing at him now because he made The Happening.
Because he was laughing at us.
There's some major choices made in a lot of this that just it can't be like him missing and just making a bad movie. It's deliberate. It feels so deliberate. Why are you looking at my lemon drink? Who put that in the script?
The correct line is, "Why are you eyeballing my lemon drink?"
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
I'm 100% with Chris on this. It is way like for someone that's this self-aware of when he is good and when he's shitty and all that.
Oh, you know who else is a genius and made all those deliberate choices? Tommy Wiseau.
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Every choice he made in the room.
Talk about opiates. That guy
doesn't know. Oh, hi, Mark. There's no way.
He doesn't know anything. He doesn't even know what country he's from. Tommy Wiseau.
Tommy Wiseau made The Sixth Sense. Then we could have this discussion. But like he didn't. He made The Room.
He made a much better movie.
I want to put out a bit of a theory on the difference between the movies that Shyamalan's made that people have at least mostly liked versus the ones that people mostly haven't. Obviously we can nitpick about certain movies like The Happening, but I think the ones that people tend to like tend to be very tight small casts that tend to focus on one character or like one small family, like maybe 3 people. Whereas the ones that have large casts, like Lady in the Water, like The Village, tend not to land as well.
Yeah,
because I think there's really interesting, like, effective moments that he creates. I think are so much easier to do when you have a tight cast. Whereas you don't get that many moments like that in The Village. Not that they don't exist, but they don't land as hard in any case.
You know why I know you're 100% right about that? You're 100% right about that, because in 2015 he made a movie called The Visit, and it was fucking great.
Yep.
Yeah. Exactly. I think the movie that most obviously puts a hole in my theory here is After Earth, because that is a pretty tight.
He didn't even direct that. He pointed it. He set up a camera on a tripod.
Yeah.
And Will Smith said action.
Absolutely. And that's what I was about to say to defend myself. Is while he certainly was director, he wasn't the only creative person in the room there, and he was a contributing writer, but not the sole writer like most of his films.
That was his paycheck.
So
paycheck movie.
I didn't dislike that movie as much as most people did.
It's not terrible.
It's certainly
Dianetics.
a movie.
It's Dianetics. That's what
it's not on the level of Battlefield Earth. So
it's a really good Star Trek episode. It's a really good Star Trek episode with Picard and Wesley. This is what it is.
Oh God!
It was an episode of the show Earth 2.
Oh man, that was a cool show. I don't remember
it was a
it
cool
all,
show.
Just some of the visuals of those guys in the caves and stuff.
The only other movie I've ever turned off while reviewing these is I try to be as professional as possible to know what I'm talking about here. The only other movie that I turned off was John Carpenter's Vampires. I made it 20 minutes in After Earth, and I said I got to move on. I got to finish
John Carpenter's Vampires.
Yeah, it's fine.
No,
I'm not a big James Woods fan, but
listen,
nobody is.
Listen, after coming off Terrence Malick review and After Earth starts with a voiceover by Jaden Smith with that stupid accent.
I feel bad for Jaden Smith. It's not like he didn't earn that role. Like he's just thrown in there. He just wasn't ready for a feature.
He wasn't ready for Karate Kid either, and they put his ass in there.
He got his ass.
I just saw After Earth. After Earth for the first time last night, and I would say I liked it more than I disliked it. I think the only thing that really works against that film is those accents that he and Will Smith were doing.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
But it's pretty surprising to me because I thought Jaden Smith was great in that Karate Kid remake. I didn't love that movie. It wasn't necessary, but he did a great job, I thought.
He learned karate from a Chinese guy in China.
Yeah, I mean, whatever your problems are with
the last Airbender.
Jaden Smith isn't the problem there, though.
After Earth is his worst.
I thought Jaden Smith did a good job there.
No,
you know what? And everyone gives him a shit for Twitter. I'm so glad I didn't have Twitter when I was 13.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I just cut him some slack.
The shit I would have tweeted at 13. Woo!
Should I tweet now?
Yeah. They were definitely going something with those accents in that movie, and it really wasn't working. It made it harder to
get going for
the cooler elements.
It's a Scientology thing. Like, it's not for us.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's a pretty generic story. It doesn't have to be a...
It was insufferable. I couldn't. Yeah. I was so annoyed by it. Like really upset. Like, I can't do this. I'd rather watch The Visit again or Split again. Can we talk about? Okay, so let's talk about the trilogy. I know this thing has a name.
We just really glossed over The Visit, which is the only movie of his I've liked since 2004.
We can go back to The Visit. I was actually saving The Visit because if you want to talk about The Visit, The Visit is my favorite M. Night Shyamalan film.
Can we just can we cleanse our palate with The Visit before we bite into the shit sandwich that is Split Glass?
Oh, stop it! It's so good.
The scene where they're driving in the car and they're talking, they kind of drive across a bridge and through town. It's the grandfather, the grandfather and the 2 kids. That's my commute. Actually, I drive by there every day, and it drives me nuts because the continuity on that scene is a nightmare. It's fine because if you don't never driven down the road, I work like a half a mile from that bridge.
That's cool. You can technically get to the Royersford High School from there. Or whatever that is.
Yeah. And the school Chris was talking about earlier in this episode is right near there as well. But yeah, I mean, it's just they're driving in one direction and they're talking, and then all of a sudden they're back further behind, traveling in the same direction. But I understand if you don't know the area, like it's perfectly fine. It's not a problem at all.
So do you know where the corner
yeah.
where the old man beats that kid's ass? Like
Yes, that's what I was.
Yeah, that's what Chris is talking about.
I was here. Yeah, I literally work. I clean a doctor's office right off that street.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there was an old man, and I said, "You looking at me?" And then I pushed him into the yard, and I went and cleaned.
So I guess a question I have for you guys, since you're not from around here, how distinctive does it come to outsiders that M. Night does all his stuff in and around the Philadelphia area? Because that's a big buzz around here every time he puts out a movie. But I don't know how is that common elsewhere?
It's labeled half the time, and then I just like came to eventually assume that was always Philly.
Like for me, I'm always like, oh, either I recognize that, or oh, I'm going to look up where that is, or there's always rumors. Oh, so Shyamalan is apparently shooting over here, but
it would be cool to recognize it. I think the television show Battle Creek was shot in Los Angeles, and I was like, that's shot in Los Angeles. But anytime they were driving, like they were like just in a stationary car with a green screen in the background, and then the stuff out the window was Battle Creek, and I was like, they sent some dude from California to Michigan to shoot that for nobody but me. I was like, oh shit, that's where my friend from the swim team crashed her car and died. Awesome. I reckon it went out their window. That's the post cereal plant. Yeah, they did that just for me, and they spent so much more money than they needed to on that garbage low budget show that Vince Gilligan like immediately distanced himself from. And they bothered, and I like when they bother. So it's cool that you get to see some Philadelphia shit in these movies. I like that.
It's definitely cool.
These characters talk like Hicks. And this isn't Central PA. That's not how people talk around here. We don't talk like that now, do we, Ian?
No, you say, yeah, Ian's going down the John Eggle. Yeah, I know how you.
Hey,
I don't even know what that's. I was born in Lancaster.
Hey, Chris, can I get some of that water, Chris?
It's on the roof.
I need some water.
Yeah, Shyamalan's definitely a regional director like Kevin Smith. He shoots Jersey a lot. Stephen King's everything's in Maine and the New England area.
Hold on. Two problems.
Maximum Overdrive was shot there.
Hey, Stephen King is not a director. Well, he did direct the Overdrive, which is
setting.
Awesome,
Ian, I'm talking about setting, general.
And most of Kevin Smith's movies are not filmed in or set in Jersey. A couple are, but like only the first couple.
Well, and in Pennsylvania too, right?
Canada.
Some of them are shot in Pennsylvania, but they usually have like a non-distinct setting.
Right. Yeah,
he shoots quite a bit. He shoots quite a bit in California. Like Clerks 2 is in California.
They feel like they have a local flavor to a New Jersey.
And that's my point. I like when directors transport the audience into a place that feels very familiar to them, and I appreciate that because I haven't walked these streets like you and have this commute every day. But for people that do. I'm sure it feels great. Like if someone shot my drive to work and they based the movie or featured that in a movie, I would think that was pretty damn cool. But yeah,
I do appreciate a local flavor to things though, even if it's not my area.
Well, especially like a Michael Mann or someone that he knows LA and Chicago and these grand cityscapes and you can smell everything and feel everything. Very tactile directors. I absolutely appreciate that.
So I derailed everything again. Do we want to get back to the visit? I know.
I mean, we said all we need to say, right?
No, it's.
He made it smell like Philadelphia, and that's good.
The movie stinks. Yeah. No, well, I mean, the movie does stink.
It stinks.
Depends.
Starts out at 30th Street Station.
So going back to what you said, Ian, earlier, where you said when he's more restrained as far as the amount of people in the cast, I think it's a good and a bad thing. And this is why, because he can't...
Riskier.
Well, he can't not give people Shyamalan quirks to him. Like, did the kid have to be a rapper? Certain things were just like...
It's like they were indicting YouTube culture, and that was their excuse for a found footage movie. It's like, oh, these kids both want to be YouTube stars, and that's why they have a camera.
But he does that with all of his characters. They're always like, here's your character, and then like right when the person's gonna go film a scene, he's like, and you really like cotton candy, and he's, what? Like it's just like a weird. He always has these weird throw-ins and add-ons. So yeah, I mean, I think that fleshing out the character is great. Like he did with The Visit. What her arc, the daughter or the granddaughter, I thought her arc worked well. Did it have to be found footage? And it really wasn't, because we got like time jump scenes, like looking at the nature and stuff. So that didn't really work so much.
Mixed.
You know what I like that he did? So many quote unquote found footage movies have like musical cues and shit like in the found footage, and it's like, no, he just showed the footage. He didn't do anything, and that's because he didn't have the money to do much post-production.
Right. His credit was gone.
Yeah, well, he made this with his After Earth money. The budget was $5 million. It was all out of his pocket. So he did a real minimalist movie, and hey, turns out he made a Clerks when you don't give him a big budget. Who knew? You know?
Yeah, some of the most terrifying scenes, at like the hide and seek scene, is just creepy. Like, it's the creepiest thing. Like, and at the end, when she's kind of locked in the room with the grandmother, I mean, again, just like, I was literally at the edge of my seat. I watched some really messed up stuff. And this was very unsettling and funny in the same way. So,
well, you know what other movie took place mostly inside one house was Signs.
Right.
You know, this was a lower budget Signs, but like the stuff he had to do to like make up for the fact that it was low budget made him get creative. And I think he proved that, like, he's like Kevin Smith. You give him cop-out money, he'll make cop-out. But you give him Clerks money, he'll make Clerks. So stop giving him my Shyamalan $45 million.
This feels to be clear. Nobody gave Kevin Smith Clerks money.
The emotional stuff in like Signs and Sixth Sense, though, didn't really work for me in this movie, in The Visit. Like, they hackingly throw in that daughter-father anger arc thing at the very end, and it's bad. It's just like cheap piano music with some images of a guy with little kids. Like, it's cheap, and so that didn't work for me at all in this movie. But it's still, because it's just like a stupid, fun, cheesy horror movie, I had a good time with this one. But you
didn't like Catherine Hahn's relationship with the kids?
Is that the mom? Is
that
the mom's actress
in The Visit?
She was fine, but she was barely in it. So like, I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel any emotion between the mom, the daughter's whole issue with her dad leaving and all that kind of stuff. I felt nothing. And when they forced it in at the end, it didn't work for me. I didn't care. The movie was already over at that point. But I don't think it had like the Sixth Sense with the kid and the mom, like that emotional arc. That's like the heart of the story for me, and it really works because it's relatable to me, I guess. Sure. I don't know.
Because you had asthma.
Rushing it now, or what's the difference?
Is what?
Is he just rushing the emotions now, or just throwing him in because he has to, or what do you think the difference is becoming?
I don't think there was like one other scene in the village that hinted at that, where they're filming each other and interviewing each other, and the boy kind of eggs her on with some of the stuff that hints at like they had an issue with their father. So it was like never really addressed throughout the entire movie. It's never really built on, and then it's just at the end they just kind of force that arc.
You got to wonder what his relationship with his father is. Shyamalan.
Sure, yeah, that's a good point.
My understanding is it's reasonably okay. Like, it's definitely weird. Some of his early films, like his father is dead in that semi-autobiographical one, the Praying with Anger movie. There's like the second movie is the little boy dealing with the death of his grandfather. But like, those things didn't actually happen to Shyamalan in his real life. So like, as far as I know, his parents are still alive, or at least were through most of his career.
Probably a really good dad. He makes 5 movies about a cold, emotionless, distant father. His dad's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I never played the Little League game, you little shit. I bought you your first camera.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's some tension in his family based on the fact that he didn't become a doctor, that kind of thing. I know everybody in his family are doctors. That's very common for the specific area he lives in.
Also for being Indian.
Did you guys think that the twist was pretty predictable in The Visit?
Yep.
Yeah. Yes.
And it still didn't ruin the movie or anything?
Well, okay. No. To be fair, it was ruined for me. It was spoiled for me still before I watched it. So,
you don't know what the word predict means. It's sort of like the word enigmatic. You don't know what it means.
So Chris and I are stupid. Yeah.
So then The Village is the twist what ruins the movie for you? Because I think that's what ruined a lot of people. Like a lot of people think that twist doesn't work in that movie.
I liked it.
Okay.
I'm not
I
saying
think
that,
in.
Go ahead.
I don't think many people watched that movie multiple times because whether or not he does it effectively, I think we could have a pretty significant argument either way. But he addresses most of the complaints people had about how that twist worked within that movie.
I agree.
Like you know,
playing
some of the things, which doesn't make sense anywhere in Pennsylvania because there's too many planes flying all over the state. Like you set that bullshit. But yeah, so he at least made the attempt. To me, the biggest problem with that whole setup is that how do you transfer this to the next generation? Once you tell them, aren't they just going to be mad at you for lying to them the whole time? But they kind of work on addressing that too. They not resolving it entirely.
I just think the film was boring. I don't think it was the twist that killed it. It was just the entire movie was boring.
It was tense.
Yeah, and I think again, going back to my theory about the cast was very large, it makes it much harder to create those really effective individual moments. He can't devote the time to give each character that moment in the movie. And I think, can we jump into Lady in the Water a little bit, or do we still have more to say about The Visit?
Sure, whatever.
No, we would be done with The Visit. It was just like,
okay.
It was like, hey, I still got it. If you give me $5 million and I gotta have a shoestring budget and, duct tape everything together, I still got it.
So I also watched Lady in the Water for the very first time in my life this week, and it was an interesting movie for sure. I think one of the things I liked best about it was also very similar to one of the things I liked least about it. I think it really captured like the sense of like, I don't know if this is a genre that people talk about, but like 80s apartment building movie, like Critters 3, like
Battery's not included.
Battery's not included.
Yeah, where like you have this cast, usually multi-ethnic, that they're all very close knit. Like they can physically close to one another without it being a personal bubble issue. Like they all know each other so well, they bond easily, and it has that same effect. And it's really cool. But he also doesn't take the time to really tease out what makes each character who they are. Like the one guy.
Besides their ethnicity,
with the randomly buff one arm to some degree, but then you got the guy with like the buff arm. Like, what does that tell me about that character? That's not
that's what I was saying.
That's not
give him one thing.
A character trait.
Yeah, but if it had been if it had been science, he's like his one buff arm would have like saved the day or some shit. It's like she's in the pool filter, and he's like, "Oh my!" But
it does save the day. It's part of the reason why shit works out. I mean, he doesn't make films of it, like campaigns. He's like, you're the guy with the buff arm. Why? Because I'm Shyamalan. Here you go.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think I don't know the exact number of the cast members within the apartment building, but let's say if it was 12, it would have been so much more effective if he made it 6 and gave the time to really tease out what each of those characters were.
It was 11.
Some of those.
Kidding. I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
No, I don't know. People didn't even have names. It's like, you're a goatee smoker. You're emaciated smoker.
I for some reason it worked for me because I like the whole setting.
What did work about it for you so much?
So it is that I like the setting, and there's very few movies that do it, and I can't even think of any to say, but that setting of where you're in a fantasy world and you don't know it, like your backyard is kind of more important.
I hear you.
It's almost like the Spiderwick Chronicles.
Like
that's a horrible thing.
Like a secret garden kind of a situation.
Exactly. Where it's like your mundane, apartment building is actually the gateway to this very important thing, and here's this grass dog that's that you have to stop, and you have to band with all these misfits, and I really like that.
Well, I like that movie more than most people do, I think, but it also tried to walk a line that kind of didn't work for me, where like. I'd say the two main things that movie is it's a fantasy movie and it's a mystery movie. Mm-hmm. But like, I think to the degree to which it was a fantasy movie should have either been way more or more not dubious. What's the word I'm looking for here? More nebulous because enigmatic. Because like I could have seen it being a little less fantastical throughout, but then like some of the people in the apartment are questioning, "Hey, are you sure? Like you're seeing these things? Like what are you? You're crazy. You're an idiot." And then like so the tension of the movie could have been, is this all real or is this some kind of weird fever dream he's having as part of a grief for the loss of his family? That could have been an interesting movie. Or if it's going to be a straight up fantasy movie where nobody's questioning the fantasy, which is what this was, I would have liked it to have been way more fantastical. Like it should have felt more like The Labyrinth or something like that.
When your POV character is depressed Paul Giamatti, I like that bravery of a choice. Where here's your main protagonist, and it's sideways Paul Giamatti, and it's like, yeah, that's different. I've never seen that in a fantasy flick before. I'm totally on board. I think it was casted really well because Bryce Dallas Howard really doesn't she's kind of one note anyways, but in this it worked.
You're a psycho.
She's just stoic, that's all she is.
But that's what you needed to be for that role.
You need that because when you have a protagonist that you want people to see themselves as, you have to have them be not interesting. That's why Daniel Radcliffe just like blinks at the camera and then like everyone else in Harry Potter has a personality, because you want to like have that person just be blank and expressionless and have no personality, so you can see yourself in that role. Which is why it's like, yeah, you're Neo. He doesn't emote, and you're like, oh, I could be Neo too. I can stare at stuff and go, whoa.
It's your dad that's depressed and divorced and living by himself now in his new dingy apartment, and then he finds himself in the Spiderwick Chronicles, and it's like, yeah, okay, that seems different.
It's relatable.
Yeah. Maybe in a couple years for me. Who knows?
A small thing that I really disliked in Lady in the Water, which is something I could most overlook if I really like the rest of it. I hate that he put in that critic in the movie to make him slightly unlikable and kill him off. That felt that made me feel a little weird. I don't like that.
Felt like a Ridley Scott move.
Oh, you didn't like Signs?
It's corny.
You're like Signs, motherfucker. Oh, now you drown in a pool, idiot.
It's exactly what it felt like, and it's just I don't know. I don't think you should address that.
A character named high school bully gets sucked into an airplane engine for no reason. That scene didn't need to be in there.
It's like responding to YouTube comments.
Yeah, when you're a director.
Sure.
Move on, man. Just move on.
I don't know, Jason. Did you like Lady in the Water, or did you not get a chance to watch this one?
I like the book better.
Oh yeah, that's right.
The children's book. Lady in the Water was fine. Like I think a lot of people were expecting a twist and didn't get one, and that was the twist. Ooh, but it was. I saw it in theaters. It was fine.
I did too, and I don't remember any of it.
I think it's a.
So I don't know what that means.
It's a very popular thing on YouTube to talk about the rise and fall of M. Night Shyamalan. I think one of the biggest problems with his career is the audience and what their expectations are going in. More than it's necessarily a Shyamalan problem, to be quite honest. I mean, there are some stinkers for sure.
Like there are two different axes on which you can attack him, and I think they're both valid. And so I think critics are like, "Wow, could you use more fucking Dutch angles, you hack?" And then the people are like, "I didn't like the guy with the arm." So like, I think
was that supposed to be me?
I mean, you do say that a lot. It's like valid to attack him on two different axes. So he's sort of like, oh, everyone's against me. But like, hey man, like some people don't like your movies for different reasons. There's a lot not to like some.
Another contributing factor to, quote unquote, the rise and fall of M. Night Shyamalan is he has a very similar arc to Kevin Smith, although Kevin Smith hasn't had the recent resurgence the way M. Night has. I think the way movies in general were made at the start of their careers is very different than how movies are made now, specifically in reference to like how you cultivate an audience. Like their first few movies in both cases were a play at a very large audience, which is how you made movies then. But anymore, you really kind of need to target or a rom-com audience or whatever it is you're going for. You need to target it because you're not, unless you're making a Star Wars or a superhero movie, you're not going to pull in the 4 quadrants of people and really have a huge hit. It could have back then. You can't.
Wasn't Zack and Mary kind of Kevin Smith's The Visit?
Yeah, for sure.
You could
absolutely. No, not
cop out. I love that the McGovern was a fucking baseball card. That was awesome.
But he needed Judd Apatow with Zack and Mary.
I love Zack and Mary. That movie just about killed his career, though. That was a huge failure.
I
think it's a great movie. I will defend it. I will defend it till the day I die. But that movie was
it's got a real financial failure. Now. Yeah, well,
it does.
But did it eat shit at the box office because the movie was bad, or because everything he made for like 10 years before it was bad?
Honestly, I think the title hurt it too.
The title hurt it.
Look generic.
I don't think I didn't even. I'm a big Kevin Smith fan. I didn't know that was a Kevin Smith. It wasn't until like 2 or 3 years later that I went, "Oh, wait, that was a Kevin Smith movie," and then went and checked it out. So, but I think just the way you cultivate an audience. Yes, he was.
Do you believe this shit? Do you believe this shit? It's my favorite.
By Randall, you mean Jay?
Really? No, Randall. Brian. What's his name? The guy that was Randall in Clerks.
Brian O'Hare.
No, it was Jay. Jason Mewes was in that movie.
But so
no,
was
but
Randall.
also
Randall
the cameraman was the guy who played Randall in Clerks.
Was he the cameraman? You're right. You're right. They're both in it. Jason Mewes is a little more prominent.
Ryan O'Halloran, yeah.
Ryan O'Halloran, that's it, not O'Hare.
No, it's Jeff Anderson. Brian O'Halloran was Dante.
Was Dante? Okay, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. We're so good at this.
I trust me. I know for sure.
I have IMDb and I'm still making these mistakes.
His name is Jeff Anderson. That's literally my dad's name, so I know that one.
I couldn't get that right with the help of IMDb, and you're like, no, it's my dad's name, idiot. I'm like, oh, excuse me, I'm going to look this up.
Well, I wasn't expecting you to know my dad's name.
Why not? Your dad's a cool guy. I think M. Night, to kind of go back to M. Night Shyamalan, I think he's the Tiger Woods of filmmakers. He's just like, he just hit it out of the park for so fast and had this crazy meteoric rise, and then just for whatever reason, just completely started shitting the bed. And then now, you know, once he hits it, then he decides to like hit it out of the park and be like, hey, I'm still Tiger Woods, y'all, and then shits the bed again.
Didn't like
he just had to decide to hit it out of the park is all he had to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
but these movies all made money. The Village made money.
Yeah, The Village made 5 times its budget.
Yeah, like what did make money is maybe After Earth.
Yeah.
I don't know what Last Airbender did, but like that's what I don't understand. People act like he was panned in Hollywood, but was he? Because these movies make money.
Last Airbender had $150 million budget. It made $131 million in the U.S. and $319 worldwide. So it made 3 times its budget total.
Yeah,
even
not
after
bad for a failure.
Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah.
A $500 million failure.
Even after Earth was a bomb domestically, but made a decent amount abroad. It wasn't a killer by any stretch of the imagination, but
so there you go. Like it was critically panned probably, but like, you know, Blade Runner 2049, which is a fucking awesome movie, barely made its budget back. Like it made a little bit more than that. You know what I mean? Dennis Villeneuve was not panned in Hollywood, so I don't think Shyamalan ever was.
But again, I think the problem,
Michael Bay
problem there,
and everyone's like, he sucks. But I'm like, I don't know, man. He made $1 billion though.
Yeah.
Well, he sells
toys. I think the problem there is, again, it's the expectations for what Shyamalan should be, not what Shyamalan is. In that those first 3 movies, or at least the 3 movies that he's most famous for and are critically acclaimed, they made $1.3 billion on very little budget overall. Yeah. So like he was a hit maker. He was like the big thing in Hollywood. He became the highest paid screenwriter in Hollywood history for either Signs or the one right after that. So then a too high of a bar was set, not only amongst audiences, but I think amongst financiers and things like that. They weren't trying to make their money back. They were trying to knock it out of the park each time.
Do you think if The Sixth Sense came out today, it would be as popular?
If nothing like it had ever come up before it?
Well, I guess
I don't think so.
It's such a slowly paced movie that I don't think modern audiences would be able to get on board. Like they would go into it expecting a scary horror movie,
everyone
and
who
not
was
get
alive when it came out is like alive now.
Yeah, but it's
Hereditary is pretty slow paced.
Yeah,
and The Witch. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. There's something to be said about that.
But I would say neither of those movies are nearly as successful as The Sixth Sense.
That's my point.
I think what I was talking about earlier.
Well, Hereditary made like 8 times its budget back. And
it did, but not to the degree Sixth Sense did, though. Sixth Sense was a huge smash hit success. Hereditary did well. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to shit on the success of that movie. It's also a very, very good movie. But I just don't think Sixth Sense money isn't out there anymore for a movie like that, because you have segmented audiences now.
Yeah,
people their movie.
Why you make a movie for this audience? Why you could just make a YouTube short?
Yeah,
or an Amazon miniseries
or Netflix. Yeah,
because people got so much entertainment. We didn't have Netflix back in.
Yeah, well,
we had to go to the movies. I had to go to the Matrix every weekend when I was a kid. Now it's just like, what is going to get me out of my house? seeing
Yeah.
Thor Ragnarok 3D IMAX. That'll get me out of my house.
Well, what's the reason to go see a Shyamalan movie in the theaters anymore? You only should go to the movies anymore. It's like watching football or hockey or whatever in the comfort of your own home. Better that, even though that's more of a spectacle. I guess I just kind of disproved my own point where you only should be going to the movie theaters nowadays when it's that big IMAX Infinity War 18. You don't need to go see The Witch in IMAX.
I think there's such a glut of content. Everybody,
you and I would, but not the general audience.
But everybody who likes movies and TV and try to keep up with things, you can't keep up anymore. There's so much coming out. So I think that's part of why you kind of move into your lane. If you're a horror person, you kind of stick to the horror stuff. If you're a rom-com person,
there were 30
stick
HBOs
to that
right
stuff
now.
a little bit more.
Remember when there was one HBO and there was The Sopranos and 6 Feet Under? You're like, this is the golden age of television.
Mm-hmm.
Now there are 30 HBOs.
It doesn't even matter how many HBOs are because you're all watching it on demand anyway.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, there's like an HBO's worth of shit on Amazon and AMC and you know, Showtime. There's just so much good shit everywhere because television's where there's more money, and nobody wants to go see movies except Bumblebee. And they'll make a movie that'll make back 1/10 of its budget in the U.S. because they know the Chinese will go see it. Yeah.
I'm just glad that The Happening finally got its sequel, and that is Bird Box. So.
That was the sequel to what is it?
A Quiet Place.
Quiet Place, yeah.
No, please don't mention those two together because A Quiet Place.
It's much more that. It's much more The Happening.
Yeah, exactly. Bird Box can't hold The Happen or A Quiet Place's jock. Like it's. Just...
I can't wait till they make the inevitable like He Who Smelt It, where like there's a monster. And people put on deodorant and shit in a cave.
It's called Dream.
Don't smell your sweat.
Yeah, shit monster with Jason Lee. Yeah, there you go. Before we sign off,
well, they actually did that.
We didn't talk
I don't know
about
if they did
splitting glass at all.
Well, yeah, we need to talk. That's what I was going to say. We need to talk the East Rail 177 trilogy.
177.
Yeah, starting with Unbreakable,
which was a great movie, and we don't even need to talk about Unbreakable because it was fantastic.
It was the cat's pajamas. It was a superhero
It was his
movie.
best movie, in my opinion.
It was a superhero movie you didn't know you were watching, and that's awesome.
Also, in M. Night's opinion.
Yeah.
Talking about with the lady in the water, you almost want that tension. Is this real or is this not real? Let that tease out a little longer. But which he did very effectively in this movie.
Well, I think he saw Dr. Caligari a few too many times, and that's like. He's like, oh, Dutch angles and surrealism and all this shit.
I don't remember that many Dutch angles in Unbreakable.
There weren't. Unbreakable was fine. It was fine.
It's pretty cynical.
Yeah, no, I'm right. I'm shitting on him.
I like the tone of that movie. That was what was so memorable to me was the tone of the movie. It's so bleak and depressing, and it matches like what the hell is his Bruce Willis's character so well.
Well, he does the protagonist that doesn't have a lot of dialogue real well.
Yeah.
Mel Gibson in Signs 2 didn't talk much.
Thank God.
Which is weird for Mel Gibson,
he actually. Once because he had no dialogue.
They hid the booze. Yeah.
You don't have to bleep him out talking about the Jews.
Oh man!
I think what people like about Unbreakable so much is like how thoughtful all the symbolism was, like the use of water in various points throughout the movie, the use of glass through various points of the movie, like even dumb little things that you wouldn't even think of until you see the trivia item on IMDb, like Samuel L. Jackson's hairstyle is based on Frederick Douglass. A weird little thing.
See, that's where Shyamalan's just smelling diarrhea, man. That's where it's just like,
but when you go back and watch Sixth Sense,
that kind of thing is all throughout Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
You watch the movies a second time, you're like, it was so obvious the whole time. He was screaming it at us, and you feel like, oh man, he's so smart. He hit it right under our noses, and then you don't really watch it a third time. And I think that's kind of what I don't know. I think he kind of wore out his welcome. Because the movies aren't that rewatchable.
I don't know. Like I said, I hadn't watched Sixth Sense since it came out, and rewatching it now, I was much more favorable than my memory was for the movie.
Well, that's good.
So
maybe I'll go back and rewatch Unbreakable before. Hey, I'm not gonna like Glass. I didn't like Split, but guess who's gonna go see Glass?
there you go.
Let's talk about Split because I think we're
Sounds like we're split here.
Yes! We don't know what enigmatic means, but we know.
I don't have 24 opinions on this movie. I just have one.
Why don't you kick it off then? Yeah, it sounds like you're going to be the villain.
Okay,
here.
well, okay. So I was watching this movie and I was like, whatever. It's whatever. It's PG-13. I'm watching the movie and then she's like
all of his movies.
If you want to stop him, you just say his name. It's Kevin, whatever.
Kevin Feige.
Yeah, James Vander.
And I was like, oh shit, the chick's name is Casey. She's not a captive. She's the last personality. His real name is KC. The name of the last personality is KC, initials. Her name's Casey. That's the last personality. She's not really a person. And then it's like, no.
That's an interesting.
The last personality is just a guy.
I was about to say, I don't remember this being a situation.
This is 10 years of watching M. Night Shyamalan films.
You were disappointed because there was no real twist that you were looking for the entire time.
But they spoon fed it to me. They're like, oh, you were paying attention. You caught this.
I think the problem here is you, not.
So yeah, you're smart and made you feel dumb and you didn't like it.
But that twist that I invented was better than the twist in the movie. It was like, there's no twist. He can just crawl up walls because he's super strong.
Because it's in that universe.
You know how people with dissociative identity disorder, one of their identities can run like a cheetah. You know how that happens.
Well, again, that stuff is not as subtle as it is in Unbreakable. And
that was actually what I ended up liking so much. That was what I ended up liking so much about that movie because I steered clear of that one for a very long time because I hate the way that trailer made that movie look. Identity disorder in real life is nothing like how it's portrayed in that movie, which, as it turns out, it's not really portraying dissociative identity disorder. He's just a straight up fucking supervillain from a superhero comic type thing, and that works way better for me. And to me, the twist isn't that he's the beast and can run around. They kind of said he was that the whole time. The twist was, oh shit, this is Unbreakable too.
Right.
Which
and of
you
course,
never
that was
could
spoiled.
see coming.
That was spoiled way as soon as that came out. Like no one talked about it unless they said that because that was, of course, like what they said, or that was the only talking point. And I hated that because there was such a good film from start to finish, and that was just an.
Was it good?
Scene.
It was okay.
Or was it just a PG-13 kind of?
I have a 16-year-old. I'm not letting my 16-year-old watch Split because it's just
because it's terrible and you don't want your 16-year-old to like watch a piece of shit because you love your 16-year-old and you want to protect them.
No, I don't want her to see a 14-year-old girl pissing on herself and some crazy guy like telling little girls to disrobe. Like there's some
dark stuff.
It's PG-13, but it's not PG-13. And that's what I think he nailed. Like that's what all these thriller and horror directors are trying to do is to make a PG-13 film nowadays in the culture we're in now, so people could see it a broader audience and not rated R because that's going to shut everything off, and still make the film you want to make. And I think that he absolutely nailed it here.
That's like what I was saying earlier. He can make things he can walk you through really disturbing content in a not explicit way, but still be very effective.
Yep.
But Split is just kind of way too long. It's luster, and I did not like the portrayal of the Horde at the end. It was just disappointing. He's climbing on walls. It's a little ridiculous. I like the subtlety of Unbreakable. And then if he's not going to be subtle about it, he's going to have him climb on walls, then why did he just have James McAvoy do like a creepy voice or something? Like it should have been then more over the top for me. I don't know.
I'm sorry, was his 9-year-old betrayal not creepy? Like
no, that was fine. I'm saying when he became the final form, the Horde or whatever, he was still just James McAvoy, but without a shirt on.
Yeah,
and like climbing on walls, but like okay, if he's gonna go to that length of him climbing on walls, which is completely unrealistic, then go a little more. Like have him be fucking really scary. He's a monster now, but he just still looks like James McAvoy. I don't know, and he sounds like him too. So I was a little disappointed.
I'm certainly not going to sit here and tell you guys this is an important film. It was like the best horror movie of the year, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. I thought it was pretty interesting, imaginative movie.
I think The Village was more, or not The Village, The Visit was more effective for sure. But I thought that I liked how restrained this was, but still showed you that it was based in a fantastical world. He could climb on the walls, and you saw his veins pulsating like they did because it is in a superhero universe setting, and so that's why I bought it.
The performance of James McAvoy was so effective too. Like, we watched for Bad Movie Night, Chris and I watched a movie called, what's it called? The Basement, Chris?
Yeah, Michigan Barton.
That was it was a knockoff of Split. And like, if the James McAvoy character doesn't work, the whole fucking thing falls apart so fast. But I thought he did a really amazing job. I didn't know he had that range.
But James McAvoy is definitely the best part of the movie, but the other characters.
Well, that's what everyone's saying about Glass too. So brace your.
Yeah, I thought she was really good too.
I don't think that revisiting that same character with that same set of characters in James McAvoy is going to work as well for me in a follow up. We'll see.
Yeah,
check out Bad Movie Night next week when we cover it.
At his arc, he went down, he came back up a little bit, and he's going to go way back down with Glass. Is that what we think? Is that the projection?
I don't know. I'm starting to see some early comments about it. It is all over the place. Yeah. People are either saying it's his best work ever or his biggest disappointment ever.
That makes me way more excited.
I've been avoiding reviews since we're going to be reviewing it for Bad Movie Night, but I've seen some headlines. It's just like, yeah.
When is that out? I thought it was out today.
Next weekend.
Oh, okay. I thought it was out today.
It's next weekend.
Okay.
I've seen people saying it's the biggest disappointment to date for M. Night Shyamalan, which should be.
And like, there's no way that's possible.
Right.
Yeah.
This has a 43 Metacritic score. This is a mediocre movie.
Yeah.
Critically,
which would honestly be the most disappointing thing.
Critically, it's doing really well. It's the I'm sorry. The general audiences that are going to these early releases are just loving it. But yeah, it's getting panned with Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic. So
I don't care about that.
No, I know, and I don't either. But absolutely, we'll see. Right. So that is. Any closing thoughts on just M. Night as a filmmaker? Is he a hack? Have we decided? Is he a hack? Is he
I didn't talk about. I could go in real in depth about the shit he uses way too much.
Okay.
The God's Eye angle that's in 3 shots in every movie. The fact that everything's either red or blue. It's like, hey, this is important. Like
or yellow.
Every Schindler's List shot he does, where it's like everyone's black and white except the red things. Like, no, it's all the red thing. That's important.
It's like Kubrick.
That's why he can't get in the basement because he's dead. It
or
seems like
doing the shot where it's reflected, the actors reflected off of either glass or water or something.
That's a weird comment that you just made because you complained so much about how the split twist didn't exist, and yet when he hints at things, you complain that he's hinting at it. But when he doesn't hint at something and you create something in your mind, you're mad at him as well.
Yeah, I can be mad about two different things.
Shit, we told you.
Turns out he can fail in both directions, and it's not my fault.
Wow.
Nice. Yeah. He's bad across the board, of course.
Oh, and he does POV so much, and POV's terrible.
I thought it was effective in
The Visit?
The Village, when he stabs that guy, that whole sequence was really cool.
The whole
all the audio and
the POV where Bruce Willis gets thrown in the pool in Unbreakable. That was terrible.
that's terrible. But it was like when
the camera does a flip and you're like, Jesus Christ.
Or the POV when you're looking through the pool to see the giant eagle grab, Bryce Dallas Howard. I liked it. I don't know. He doesn't use it as a crutch so much as he just uses it, and it's a choice, and it's weird and jarring sometimes.
I think POV is like the visual equivalent of voiceover.
Ooh, God, I hate. Yeah, coming off Malik, man, he really did a number on me.
See, I think Wide Awake is definitely not a great movie. Not a lot to love about it. I think
Stuart Little was
the voiceover.
Phenomenal. No.
I think the voiceover in Wide Awake is masterfully done, though.
Oh.
It was like the best part about that movie.
Well, movie didn't have any good parts.
That movie happened. Yeah.
Yeah. He got a paycheck for that movie. It was sort of like After Earth. He's like, can I make a movie I want to make if I point the camera so Will Smith can direct this movie? And they're like, yes.
They're all, Rosie O'Donnell's been in our waiting room. If you do something with her, then
She was on fire at that when that movie came out. Are you kidding?
That was like a League of Their Own era, right? Yeah.
Yeah, man. She could still be in movies at that point.
Yeah. So getting back to your thing about final thoughts, I think the one thing I liked about going back to Praying with Anger and Wide Awake, which I'd never seen before, is it was kind of fun seeing the way he would insert supernatural elements into otherwise not supernatural type movies and introducing like faith questions into those as well in a way that he did masterfully. Like he took what he did in those two movies and weaponized it with a little bit of horror with Sixth Sense. I thought that was really, really fascinating look.
I thought it was a little ham-handed in Signs. It's like, oh, the priest wants to be a priest again.
Yeah, well, that's like a...
Like, he did a much better job in Sixth Sense. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Him and Joaquin Phoenix should not do anything because they're good by themselves, but not together.
I did not like Joaquin Phoenix in the Village at all.
No.
I thought, actually, it's weird how Adrian Brody, at the height of his Adrian Brodiness, was the worst thing about that movie.
Yes.
He recorded that movie on a lunch break. Like, he didn't care. He's like, yeah, just show up and be goofy. That's cool. I don't have to cry.
Fun fact about
pianist. Yeah.
I know we're trying to wrap this up, but what's fun to think about is they originally had Ashton Kutcher cast in that role.
I would love to see it. I would love to see it.
I'm kind of curious what that would have looked like.
It was saved his
theory.
career.
It's worse, but Adrian Brody was so bad.
It was bad.
Chris, final thoughts on Shyamalan?
He's fine. I think the majority of his movies are either good or passable. He has a few stinkers, but I don't know. I'm looking forward to Glass, I guess.
Yeah, Jason.
I'll go see Glass. I don't wanna. I'm gonna. I liked Unbreakable so much. I will give him 2 movies worth of latitude. Okay. I will let it burn me twice.
Well, it sounds like, but it sounds like you're going into it with a reason to hate it.
Nah,
it doesn't seem fair either.
Well, he's 50-50, right? Because like Unbreakable was good, Signs pissed me off, so like, let's see what he does.
Jason has a specific friend that he only brings to horrible movies.
No, he brings me.
So is this Venom worthy? Are you guys going to link up for the Glass?
I might do that to him. Yeah, because he made me see Tusk.
Dude, if that's your idea, if that's your idea of bad movies, holy hell, you should not watch the movies we cover for our channel.
We'll send you some screeners.
Elves. That's all I have to say.
I used to write for BadMoviePlanet.com. I've seen some real pieces of shit.
Right on.
Nice. All right. Yeah. Should we talk about our? I don't even know if we talk about our beers at the end anymore. I drank all of mine. It was really good.
I switched to Scotch.
Oh God. Good for you.
I switched to Scotch halfway through Split.
Oh, which identity switched to Scotch? Yeah. Jesus.
I'm switching to acid. I'm gonna go see Spider-Man a 3rd time.
You're gonna go see Malick films again. Ugh. What Malick film did you want to watch on acid again? All of them?
I don't know.
Tree of Life. I think,
right? Night of Cups.
Oh God, how boring. Bad Movie Night, Chris and Ian. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This was a blast. Thank you guys.
Real hootenanny.
What?
He said it was a hootenanny.
Yeah, it was a real hootenanny.
Thanks for joining us, fellas. This was a good episode, if I do say so myself.
So
cool.
Now,
that's the only kind of episode we know how to do.
So now say where everyone can find you. Come on, you've been on the show before.
I
love it.
Do his hosting duties for him.
I know, please.
I don't do this part. Ian, you do your stupid.
Chris is notoriously bad at ending. I just like to watch him fail. It's quite delightful. No, BadMovieNight.com.
This thing? Do we still do this thing?
Yeah. It's finger guns.
I usually just get up and walk away.
But you can check us out at BadMovieNight.com. We have a podcast anywhere you like to get podcasts. We do a video show on YouTube. We cover bad movies, 80s, 90s, current. Just put out an episode on Crossbreed, which I think comes out in a couple of days. It is a remarkably forgettable movie, but we've got a lot of fun, low budget, interesting movies as well. So don't watch Elves, though.
because they're not working for Santa anymore. Jason, where can people find you?
There's no elves in the goddamn movie about elves.
Well, there are no trolls in Troll 2. What are you gonna do?
Great movie. Yeah, it's a great movie. Shut the fuck up.
They're both great, actually.
Well, as long as we're pissing on hospitality, I'm Jason. You can find me at Jason E. Alt on the Twitterverse. I'm on Reddit, mostly bitching about how bad the Blackhawks are right now. I write some articles for MTG Price and CoolStuffInc.com, and I don't know. I'm always looking to expand the amount of stuff I do, so definitely check me out on Twitter to see what I'm up to next. Thanks for watching.
There you go. Jon Dunning right here on this very channel. They said, we said on Twitter at OrzovDunn. You can support this very show right here on Patreon. Patreon, they said, we said, to kind of up the production value and all that stuff. I keep.
He needs new posters.
Yeah, he new posters. I keep teasing the fact that I'm going to put this on podcast form. I swear it is coming soon, very soon, to your ears, an earlobe near you. But until next time, everyone, we'll see you at the movies.